Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel and welcome back to a new feature. Today we're going to implement the wishlist feature. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Click on solution and create a new project. It's going to be a WPF user control library. Hit next. Of course, the name of the feature, it's going to be wishlist feature, next, and create. As usual, we're going to install the dependencies. We have only one dependency, the SVG library. Click on Manage NuGet Packages, and let's look for SVG image. We need core and core UI, project reference, core and core UI, and hit OK. Now, I would like to add here the structure for clean architecture, domain, data, and presentation. I'm going to click on basically open folder in File Explorer. I'm going to paste here the empty folders that I prepared. I have those empty folders for clean architecture. I'm going to copy this and now paste it here. And I've prepared some kind of configuration for this. I just prepared this in advance. I'm going to add this to the configuration file of the projects. Once saving the file, you're going to see the folders right here. All right. This is just a workaround that I come up with. I'm going to look for actually how to create folder structures automatically somehow in the IDE. Anyway, let's continue. Now, under the domain, close first of all this and delete this particular control. We don't need it. Under domain repository, create a new interface, wishlist repository. We have two functions actually. The first one is to remove and add the products from the wishlist. And the second function is going to get the entire wishlist. As usual, we're going to define the use cases. Nothing substantial. We know how to define use cases. And we have grouped actually the use cases into the sealed class for dependency injection purposes. Right now, it's time to implement this layer and the repository. Now, as dependencies, we need the API service. We need to inject the database, crypto service. Let's start with this get entire wishlist. Let's check first of all if we have the current entity or we have an active session. If the user is null, we're going to throw an API exception saying, for example, cached user not found. Let's initialize the transaction. First things first, we need to get the token. If you are not able to find the token, it's going to throw an exception. Next, let's prepare the bearer token as we have done earlier. And let's make the API call and let's provide the URL and pass the bearer token. Now it's time for caching. I'm going to remove all wishlist items. Next, we're going to add any missing products by looping over the list. We're going to do the same thing that we have done in the section of products, adding the products and adding the images. Let's store the products under product. If the product is not null, let's check first of all if the product exists and any async. P for products and P and ID. If the product does not exist, we're going to add it, change the DTO to entity and save changes async. Now we have to recreate the wishlist items. Let's store this wishlist items or the new wishlist items. We have to map each item and you have to pass as an argument the entity ID. Actually, I'm going to change this user entity. All right. And we have to convert it to list. Now we have the new wishlist items. We're going to assign to the user entity the new wishlist. Next, context and user entities. Update the user entity and we have to save asynchronously and we have to commit asynchronously the transaction. Now the user is authenticated, which means that we have an ongoing stream or an active stream. Therefore, we have to force to refresh the stream. We have done this in the database section, emit user updates. It's going to force basically the refresh of the stream. Now we can have the new updates. Next, we're going just to return the list and we have to convert it to list model. Now, if we have some kind of DB issues, let's roll back asynchronously and we have to throw an exception of type API exception. Saying, for example, we have some kind of database problem and passing the exception. Other exception for that matter. Let's roll back asynchronously and throw the exception. I think that's pretty much it for the implementation. Nothing substantial. All right, now to toggle or to remove and update the products from the wishlist, you have to do basically the same thing. I'm going to copy this particular section Let's check first of all if we have an active user. Let's create the transaction. Let's get the token, prepare the header, and we have to make the API call. Now it's time for caching. Now we have to check if the response and the wishlist item ID equal -1 from the response. In other words, we are removing the item. Let's try to look for this wishlist item entity in the database. Let's store it under wishlist item entity. And we have to look for this particular item in the wishlist. First or default wishlist item, product ID equal the product ID from the parameter. Now, if we find this particular item is not null, we're going to remove it. Afterward, we're going to refresh basically the user wishlist by adding to the array and wishlist. The trickiest part here is to update the state of the context entry. We have to assign the flag modified by doing context and the entry user entity state modified. And we have to save asynchronously the changes and commit asynchronously the changes. Next, we have to update the stream and we have to return -1. Now, if you have to add a new item, let's store the product detail, DTO. We have to check first of all that this product detail is not null. If this product detail is not null, you have to look for this product detail under the database to see if it exists or not. Now, if it does not exist, we have to add the product to the list of product entities. Under the same scope, if the product detail is not null, we have to add the new wishlist item for the user entity, and you have to fill in from the response. Gonna fold this section. Now we are done basically with the wishlist item. We have to refresh the wishlist, and we have to change the entry state to modified for the user entity, and we have to do exactly what we have done here. And at the end, we're going to return wishlist item ID from the response. If we are not able to find the GWT token, we can say invalid token. And in case of a database exception, we have to roll back basically asynchronously and throw an exception of type API exception. Something happened while updating the database. And if you do have any other exception, I'm gonna throw basically the exception. And maybe it is a good idea actually to roll back. I think I'm gonna delete it. It's not necessary. And that's pretty much it for the implementation of the repository. Let's define the DI section, the module. Let's register, first of all, implementation of the wishlist repository. Let's provide the use cases, and let's register the use cases. And we have to mark here a to-do, which is very important, to register the only view model that we're going to have in this feature, wishlist manager view model. And that's pretty much it, and it's time for testing. Now let's come back to the features test, and let's add the project or reference. We need the wishlist feature. And as usual, we have to prepare the use case to test. The first test case, we need to make sure that toggle wishlist should remove products from the user's wishlist. We have to arrange the product ID to be removed and user ID. Now we have to seed some data to the database. Next, let's get the cached user. We have to check first of all if we have the cached user, otherwise let's fail the test. Next, we have to arrange the GWT token, and let's arrange from the database the product ID to check if the product ID exists. Any product ID that has to match the product ID, all right? Just a small assertion. Let's make sure that this product ID exists. Now we have to act. Let's store the response under inserted ID. We have to pass here the product ID and user ID. Now for the assertion, we have to make sure that this inserted ID should be exactly -1. In other words, we are removing the product. Now let's refresh the user's data. All right, let's call it a new cached user. And let's check again if the user is not found. I'm gonna copy this. If this user is not found, we're going to fail the test. Now let's see if the product is still in wishlist. New cached user and any wishlist item and product ID. We have to make sure that this in wishlist is false. Now after each test, we need to refresh the mock wishlist under the mock data. I'm going to conform this wishlist use cases test to iDisposable for the cleanup. And I'm going to override the function dispose. In every single test, we're going to refresh basically the wishlist under the mock data by doing mock API client factory current wishlist. It should be a new array by doing mock data and the user DTO and wishlist in order to avoid the interference of multiple tests at once. This step is very important. And that's pretty much it for this test. Let's run the test. and the test passed. All right. Now we have to do the other case to add the product to the wishlist. As we have done earlier, let's arrange the product, the user, seed data, and arrange the cached user and the token. Nothing new. Now I have just deleted the item. Let's refresh the data from the database. I'm gonna copy this. Let's do the same assertion that we have done earlier to check if the product is no longer in the wishlist. Next, you have to call again the use case. And for the assertion, inserted ID should be exactly the inserted ID from the mock data. This is how we have mocked basically the response and the wishlist mock response. And we have to check for the final cached user. Let's refresh again the data and let's check once again in wishlist from final cached user. I'm gonna copy the same thing that we have done here. Now for the in wishlist, in this case, should be true. Why? Because we have added right now the item or the product to the wishlist. Let's run the test. Great, and the test passed. Now we need to make sure that the user won't be able to toggle the wishlist when the user is not authenticated. To simulate basically this scenario, we're gonna do the same thing that we have done earlier, except we're not going to arrange the GWT token. Before acting, we need to surround this with try catch. We don't care actually about the result, and we have to act basically by doing await and use cases, toggle wishlist, invoke, product ID and user ID. Afterward, we have to fail the test if we are able to pass this function call by saying we are expecting error, but we got no error. And here we have to make sure that we have an exception of type API exception. And the message should be exactly invalid token. That's pretty much it. Let's run the test. All right, very good. For the last test, for this integration test, we need to make sure that the function or the use case gets entire wishlist should get the entire user wishlist with images. Let's arrange the user ID, the GWT token, and the correct user data, and where to store the results. Next, let's seed some data to the database. Let's arrange the cached user from the database and fail a test if the cached user is null. Now let's act. Let's surround this block with try catch, and we have to fail the test if we have an exception. Let's store the wishlist under this particular variable. Now we have to make sure that the list is not empty, and we have to make sure that we have exactly the same list from the mock data. And that's all for the test. Let's run the test. All right, pretty good. Now we have to make another assertion. Actually, we need to make sure that the wishlist should be equivalent cached user. Let's store it here under cached wishlist, cached user, wishlist. And we have to make sure that this cached wishlist matches the wishlist from the API call. Very nice. Now we are 100% sure that we have the same data from the cache as well as API call, which is good. Before wrapping up the video, let's check for interference by running all tests at once. All right, no interference so far. Very good. And that's gonna wrap up our today's video. For the next video, we're going to implement the presentation layer and make the integration tests. I hope you have learned something new. See you in the next one, and happy coding!